Ever since the UK voted to leave the European Union back in 2016, a bunch of Remainers and the EU itself have been working very hard to make sure that we don't fully leave and we are still semi-tied to the organisation. That's why the likes of Donald Tusk and Michel Barnier decided to take full control of the narrative when it came to negotiating with Theresa May's government, which resulted in creating this Brexit deal which was not acceptable by anyone, including Remainers, surprisingly. And then Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. Now, in the run-up to Boris winning his election as Tory leader, the EU decided to basically just not take him seriously, and anything that Boris was saying, they didn't really understand that he would do it. When Boris was saying, well, if you want a deal, come back with a better option, otherwise we could leave without a deal. And the EU said, nah, he doesn't mean it. But now they're starting to worry. So their new narrative is to try one more time to play hardball with the British government and saying that this is it, we're not negotiating, the backstop has to stay, the withdrawal agreement should stay. And Boris said, fine, we'll leave. Boris Johnson has written a letter directly addressing Donald Tusk of the EU, saying that the withdrawal agreement is dead, and we have to, if you want to come back to negotiate, this is our demand. We need to sort out obviously the backstop issue and everything else in the agreement. Now, before we continue, it's been quite interesting over the last day or two, because the mainstream media try to make everything more entertaining and make it more simplistic. They've gone with the headline, oh, Boris's only issue is with the backstop. So obviously this is why we had a lot of Brexiteers being concerned, saying, wait, is Boris's issue just the backstop or everything? But Boris did clarify that the withdrawal agreement as a whole itself is dead. And it's not just a backstop, it's being tied to everything else when it comes to the European Union. So don't worry, his issue is not just a backstop. Boris Johnson has clarified that the withdrawal agreement is anti-democratic and inconsistent with the sovereignty of the UK as a state. He's also said that it is inconsistent with the UK's desired final destination for a sustainable long-term relationship with the EU, which is a free trade agreement. And he finished by saying that it has become increasingly clear that the backstop risks weakening the delicate balance embodied in the Belfast Agreement. So unlike Theresa May, after losing her vote 3 times in Parliament and decided to go back to the EU and beg them to basically just remove the backstop from the withdrawal agreement, the Boris Johnson government has said and declared that the withdrawal agreement as a whole is dead, and if you don't renegotiate and give us a free trade agreement for the future relationships, then we'll leave without a deal. And this has been the reaction we've received from the European Union. One of the senior figures in Brussels has said that there was a 2.5-year negotiating process in which the EU compromised, including on the question of the backstop. Yeah, right. The withdrawal agreement is not open for renegotiation and the backstop is not open for change. Another diplomat has told James Crisp that if the British government was serious, it would just ask the EU to trust them. Because if they did, the EU would have to look at it. This is not a moment for thin-skinned action. So basically the EU is saying, we're going to have the backstop, but trust me, we're not going to actually use it. I mean, do you trust them? Another EU diplomat has said that it's clear from the letter that renegotiation is the last thing the British government wants. And then finally, Donald Tusk himself tweeted that the backstop is an insurance to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland unless and until an alternative is found. Those against the backstop and not proposing realistic alternatives, in fact, support re-establishing a border, even if they do not admit it. But you do realise that the UK would not put up barriers, and the Republic of Ireland said, well, we don't also want to put up barriers. So are you going to do it? This is going to be quite interesting. But in reality, the Irish border issue has got nothing to do with what Tusk said in that tweet, because we already have the tape released from 2.5 years ago when Michel Barnier and the rest of the EU negotiating team were talking to each other and decided to use the Irish backstop or Irish border as a tactical issue to essentially have control over the narrative of the negotiations.
For me, there is a strategic and tactical reason also, which is to use Ireland for the future negotiations and to isolate Ireland and to not to close this point and to leave it open for the next 2 or 3 years. And in that case, we will face clearly permanent pressure on the negotiation for trade, the single market, because of Ireland. This is the point. And we have to be careful about what could be the reaction in the European Council and the member states.
What is your fear that there's some countries and say, okay,
Yes.
let it go, this here is Irish issue?
Just in terms of plans for drawing up a border, we're not drawing up any plans for a border between Northern Ireland and Ireland full stop, because there isn't going to be one. And I've made it very clear to my counterpart in the UK, but also to the other EU Prime Ministers, that under no circumstances will there be a border.
Will you give us a clear commitment that the European Union will not impose a border, customs posts or any other infrastructure of a frontier in order to protect the European borders in the way you're doing to the detriment and at the loss of life of people in the Mediterranean? That's the question. We don't trust the Tories. Can we trust you? No border, under any circumstance. Can we trust you?
Ireland, isolate Ireland, permanent pressure on the negotiation.
This is exactly why I strongly support Boris Johnson's letter. It was about time that we had a Prime Minister and a government that was truly strong and stable. Speaking of strong and stable leaders, we had Jeremy Corbyn organising a press conference and a speech on Brexit, on a very specific issue when it comes to politics, Brexit, and this is what he said.
The coming general election, I don't know when it's going to be, so don't ask me the date, but we're ready for it. The coming general election will be make or break for our public services.
Oh, wait, this was a Brexit speech, but it was talking about elections and public services. Okay, we might have to fast forward it to get to the point.
We'll introduce a real living wage of £10 an hour, including for young people who deserve equal pay for the equal work and contribution that they make to our society.
Well, he's still not talking about Brexit. Fast forward.
Let's be very clear. We will do everything necessary to stop a disastrous no deal for which this government has no mandate.
Well, there we go. At least he mentioned Brexit at some point. But the biggest point from the press conference was when a journalist asked a question about Jeremy Corbyn's plan to force the Queen to make him Prime Minister and have a unity government. The audience and the Labour members decided to heckle the journalist in a very intolerant and way.
Mr Corbyn, you say you're ready to do anything in your power to stop a No Deal Brexit. Would that include potentially stepping aside as leader of that caretaker government?
Can I just remind you?
Let Andy ask his question. He's a nice fella, it's all right.
Would that potentially include stepping aside as leader of that caretaker government you've talked about, if that is the way to get the necessary votes to stop the No Deal Brexit?
Can I remind the audience?
No, no, sorry,
just to
let him
keep
ask a question.
polite?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the press or Boris Johnson or Joe Swanson.
It's clear that you do not have the cross-party support in Parliament to be a caretaker Prime Minister. So would Labour back somebody who can?
I genuinely feel sorry for the people of this country because this is the alternative to our current government. This is the opposition, the Labour Party. Yeah. But overall, going back to the main point of the backstop and the Boris Johnson's letter, as we said, the media haven't been covering it properly. So they've been going around saying, okay, this is just about the backstop. But Boris Johnson has said that the whole withdrawal agreement has to be revisited. Otherwise, we will be leaving without a deal and it's going to be fine. So share this video so people know about this. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle should be down here as usual. And if you want to support the channel, you could become a member of the Cabinet Club. The link is in the description. As always, subscribe and click on the notification bell next to it. And I'll see you tomorrow with a new video.